Good evening, everyone. I am the bread of life. Your ancestors ate the manna in the desert, but they died. This is the bread that comes down from heaven so that one may eat it and not die. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever, and the bread that I will give is my flesh for the life of the world. John 6, verses 48 to 51. We continue this Sunday with the beautiful Bread of Life discourse from John's Gospel. At the beginning of today's passage, we read that the people listening to this discourse murmured about Jesus. They did so because he had been teaching them that he was the bread of life who had come down from heaven. For some of his listeners, this was too much to accept. It was especially difficult for those who knew Jesus and his family from Nazareth. When Jesus became aware of their murmurs, he confronted them straight on, saying, "Stop murmuring among yourselves." He then doubled down on his teaching, taking it even farther, telling them that whoever eats his flesh will live forever. In some ways, Jesus' teaching could be said to defy human reason. Imagine hearing this teaching for the first time from someone who grew up in your hometown. Human reason alone is insufficient to comprehend and accept such teaching. But that is precisely the point. Human reason alone is insufficient. But when human reason is endowed with a special revelation from the Father in heaven, then all becomes clear and all makes sense. On that point, Jesus said, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draw him, and that everyone who listens to my Father and learns from him comes to me." Therefore, even though it is beyond the ability of natural human reason alone to make sense of what Jesus was teaching, those who were drawn by the Father and listened to his voice were given a new form of knowledge that brought clarity to their human minds. This knowledge is essential if we are to know and understand the path to eternal life, and if we are to understand and believe in the most holy Eucharist. Sometimes you can fall into the trap of thinking that faith is just believing in something that is beyond us. But faith is much more. It's not just blindly believing. It's not just wishful thinking that turns into a personal choice to believe. Faith is based on something absolutely real and unmistakable. It's based on true, spiritually revealed knowledge, a knowledge given to us by God. Reflect today upon anything that you fail to have perfect faith in. Do you believe in the most holy Eucharist? Do you believe that it is the food for eternal life? Do you believe in everything Jesus taught? Examine your faith, and where it is lacking, seek the voice of the Father. Only God can impart the deepest spiritual knowledge to you. For your part, you must listen, comprehend, accept, and believe. Doing so will produce the gift of faith within your human reason, and that faith will be your guide to the life of the fullness of grace. And God bless you.
Friends, We are now on the 19th Sunday in Ordinary Time. On the Gospel for this Sunday is the continuation of the 6th chapter of John's Gospel on the theme of Jesus as the bread of life. The passage begins with the murmuring of the Jews to what Jesus had said. This response of the Jews were very similar to the incident in the desert where the Israelites grumbled against Moses and God and refused to accept their mission. Yet God is generous and give them manna in spite of their grumbling. In the New Testament, we have Jesus was much more to offer and was offering something unique, namely his own body and blood. Even then, when Jesus told the Jews that he is the living bread that has come down from heaven and they have to listen to him and believe in him, they started grumbling and complaining. They particularly objected to the words from heaven. Jesus stressed the word living, indicating the growth of and their need to be one with him. Jesus strongly emphasized the fact that he and the bread of life are one and the same. Here the Jews murmured about Jesus because he said that he was the bread of life that has come down from heaven. They counter that the claim of Jesus is fraudulent because they knew his parents, the place where he came from, and not certainly from heaven. They found it difficult to accept him. They knew who Jesus was from heaven, from the human point of view, namely a carpenter from Galilee. In fact, they could not understand the reality of Jesus, the incarnation of God among them. It is worth reflecting, brothers and sisters, that in our beautiful first reading, we have the person of Elijah. He was down and out. He escaped for possible death. He went to the mountain and he just asked the Lord for him to die. But amidst the discouragement, amidst the problems and the difficulties encountered for a possible death through the queen Jezebel, after conquering the prophets of Baal, the Lord to an angel intervened. The Lord had given him power, strength, food from heaven, and thus Elijah has been strengthened as he renewed his faith, as he renewed his commitment to be a prophet of the Lord. Friends, we are God's people journeying towards the promised land of eternal life. For this journey, we need a special kind of food that only God can give us. And as Jesus had said, I am the living bread that has come down from heaven. Anyone who eats this bread will live forever. So we ask a special prayer, intercession from the Lord, that as he nourished Elijah with food in the wilderness and strengthened by that food, and as he walked all the way to Mount Horeb may He will grant us, with whom the Lord had fed with the food of the Eucharist. May the Lord strengthen us in our work all the way to the promised land. Just as the previous condition of Elijah was not produced by the lack of food, so his new strength didn't come from the food alone. It came from the assurance that God was with him. It was an assurance that breathed new life into him and gave him the heart to grow. Friends, we have something better. We have Jesus, and the angel sent by the Father to care for us. He is our strength in time of weakness, our light in times of darkness, our consolation in times of sorrow, and our hope in times of despair. What Elijah got was just an ordinary food and drink. But Jesus gives us something infinitely greater. He gives us bread from heaven, the food of everlasting life. On the strength of this food, we'll walk all the way to the mountain of God, namely eternal life. A pleasant Sunday, brothers and sisters.